The core did not look like much once the panels were off. It sat in a cradle of bent metal ribs and cracked insulation. A dull gray cylinder, length of Rian's forearm and twice as thick. Cables ran into it from 3 sides, bundled, and taped and then wrapped again in some old woven stuff that had turned brittle with age. Dust lay in every seam. He wiped his hands on his overalls and took a breath. The air in the broken bay tasted like hot metal and old smoke. "This is it?" he asked. "Yes," Kael said in his ear. "Primary processing unit. Power buffer is internal. The outer harness is dead. You can cut it." Rian shifted his grip on the cutter. The handle was slick with sweat. He had been working for an hour, clearing panels, unbolting the ribs, not touching anything that hummed or warmed under his fingers. Nothing had. The ship was a carcass. "You sure it won't wake something?" he said. "If there was power, you would hear it. Feel it. I am running on the last of the core's stored charge. There is no link to the hull." Rian set the cutter's teeth against the first bundle of cables. They were stiff. The tool buzzed in his hand, a thin, angry sound. Plastic smoked. A sour smell rose. He flinched when the last strand snapped. Nothing else happened. No spark, no alarm. He let out a slow breath he had not meant to hold. "Good," Kael said. 2 more bundles, then the mounts. Rian cut the rest. Each time he expected a jolt, a flash, something. The core just sat there, dull and patient. When the last cable dropped away, he dug under the cradle for the mounts. 4 of them. Heavy bolts sunk into the deck, rusted, but the metal around them was still strong. His wrench slipped twice before he got the angle right. His knuckles scraped the deck. Skin tore, blood mixed with the old dust. "You could have told me about the bolts," he muttered. "I did not remember the exact frame pattern," Kael said. "We used several." "We?" "Our collective. Explorers. You will see more records later. Focus on the bolt." Rian grunted. The first one gave with a sharp crack. The sound bounced around the empty bay. He froze, listening. Wind hissed faintly through some gap in the hull. A loose panel somewhere ticked as it cooled in the shade. Nothing else. He went back to work. By the time the last bolt came free, his arms shook. Sweat ran into his eyes. The afternoon light slanted in through a torn seam in the bay wall, turning dust into bright lines. "Now lift," Kael said. Rian wedged his fingers under the core and heaved. It did not budge. He tried again, putting his shoulder into it. His boots slipped on grit. The cylinder rocked a few millimeters, then settled. "How is this thing so heavy?" he said between his teeth. "Dense materials," Kael said. "Radiation shielding, microstructured mass. Do not drop it." "I can barely move it." "You can. Shift your stance. Use your legs." Rian bit down on a curse. It sounded like something Sella would say when someone complained about a crate. He planted his feet wider, bent his knees, and tried again. This time he kept his back straight and pushed with his thighs. The core rose. Slow, but it rose. His muscles burned. His breath came out in short, rough bursts. He eased the cylinder out of the cradle and onto the deck with a heavy thump that made the metal ring. "Careful," Kael said sharply. "It's on the floor," Rian said. He sat back on his heels, chest heaving. "You said not to drop it." "I didn't." "Impact is bad. But this is within tolerance," Kael said after a moment. "You did well." Rian snorted. The praise felt strange from a voice in his ear, from something that was also the heavy thing on the deck. He wiped his face on his sleeve and looked around. The bay was a mess of twisted struts, collapsed racks, and stripped panels. His sled waited just outside the broken hatch, half in shadow. A flat sheet of composite on worn runners, piled with cable and scrap he had already collected. His harness lay coiled on top. He had to get the core from here to the sled without anyone seeing, then across the dunes to camp. The sun was sliding down. Shadows got long. In a couple of hours, the cold would come. "Wrap it," Kael said. "The cloth in the corner, under the beam." Rian followed his gaze without thinking, then remembered there were no eyes, just sensors, old maps in Kael's memory. Still, the bundle of fabric was where Kael said it would be, jammed under a bent support. Rian dragged it free and shook it out. It had once been a thermal blanket. The reflective surface was dulled and torn, but the inner padding was thick. It smelled of dust and something faintly chemical. "That will insulate," Kael said, "and disguise the form." Rian rolled the core onto the blanket, grunting with the effort, then pulled the edges up and around, tucking and knotting until it looked like an awkward, lumpy pack. He tested the knots. His fingers shook a little. "You are tired?" Kael observed. "Good guess," Rian said. He slid his arms under the bundle and lifted. The weight hit him like a body. He staggered and had to take a step back to keep from falling. His spine flared with pain. "Too much?" Kael asked. I've carried worse, Rian said through clenched teeth. It was true, but not by much. Sometimes the scrapyards had half-melted engine blocks that paid well. Those had taken 2 people and a lever. He shuffled toward the hatch, every step careful, the wrapped core pressed into his chest and arms. His boots scraped on the deck. At the hatch, he had to angle the bundle through. The edge of the metal scraped his shoulder. He hissed and pushed harder. For a moment he thought he would wedge there, stuck between ship and sky with the weight pinning him. Then he was through, stumbling out onto the sloped hull. The light outside was blinding after the bay's dimness. He squinted. The sky was a hard, pale blue. The sun sat low, a white disk. Heat still radiated from the hull under his feet. He lowered the bundle onto the metal with a grunt and straightened slowly. His back protested. Rest, Kael said. Not here, Rian said. He scanned the horizon. The wreck field spread out around him. Broken ships lay half buried in yellow dust and reddish sand, their shapes softened by time. Some were just ribs and spines. Others still had hull plates that caught the light. Between them, narrow paths had been worn by years of scavenger feet and sleds. No one was in sight. The nearest other crew had been a good walk away when he came in. A pair of small figures moving around the ribs of an old shuttle, their voices faint on the wind. He could not see them now. He listened, just the dry hiss of sand moving, the faint creak of metal as the wreck cooled. He dragged the sled closer, the runners rasping on the hull, and wrestled the bundle onto it. The sled dipped under the weight, but held. It will be more stable if you center it, Kael said. I know, Rian said, shifting the bundle until it sat over the sled's balance point. He piled some stripped cable and broken conduit around it, making a nest. From a distance it would just look like another heap of junk. He looped the harness over his shoulders, clipped the lines to the sled, and tested the pull. The sled moved, but slower than usual. Sand would be worse than hull. You can take the ridge path, Kael said. Less loose sand, more rock. Rian glanced toward the low line of dark stone that marked the edge of the main wreck field. The ridge path was longer and more exposed, but the footing was better. The usual route cut between taller hulks, more cover, but also more soft drifts. Any crews on the ridge? He asked. My last scan was when we spoke earlier, Kael said. No one then. I have no sensors now. Only what you show me. Rian grunted. He had almost forgotten there had been a time, not long ago, when Kael could see through the ship's old systems. Now the core was cut free. It was just a heavy cylinder and a voice. I'll check as I go, he said. He hauled the sled down the hull, boots sliding a little on the slope. At the bottom, the runners met sand with a soft crunch. The pull got harder. The harness bit into his shoulders. He set a steady pace. Not fast, just enough that he would reach camp before full dark. The path between the hulks was quiet. The wind had died a little. Fine dust lifted around his boots and settled again. His breath fell into a rhythm with his steps and the soft drag of the sled. Tell me about the others, he said after a while. The ones like me. There was a pause. You mean your family line, Kael said. Yeah. You are the last confirmed male descendant of the AI Kael expeditionary charter, Kael said. Your sister is the last confirmed female. There may be distant branches, illegitimate lines. Records are incomplete. Rian frowned. The words were big, but the meaning was simple enough. He thought of the birthmark on his arm. The way Sella had once said it looked like a map someone had half erased. You said we were explorers, he said. Not corporate. Yes, Kael said. Independent? Before the oligarchs consolidated the FTL nodes, there were many charters. Groups who built and owned their own ships. Your ancestors were one. They mapped routes. They traded. They made agreements with local populations without central approval. And that's illegal now, Rian said. Worse than illegal, Kael said. It is heresy. The oligarchs teach that unregulated travel caused the collapse, that only their control keeps the galaxy from chaos. Rian snorted. Looks pretty chaotic from here. Controlled scarcity, Kael said. Controlled conflict. It keeps people busy, angry at each other, not at the structure. Rian thought of the fights in camp over water rations, over who got to strip which wreck. The way rumors spread about Sella's caravan cheating the way station, about some other crew hiding a big find. People here just want to eat, he said. No one is thinking about structure. They are, Kael said. They just do not have accurate words, or accurate history. You will. Rian pulled harder for a few steps, jaw tight. The sled's weight dragged at him. And what am I supposed to do with that, he said. Knowing some old stories. Knowing I had people. You have a choice, Kael said. You can keep scavenging until your body fails, or until a patrol picks you up, or until a rival crew kills you over a piece of metal. Or you can use what you are, what you carry, to leave. Leave to where? Rian asked. The oligarch worlds? The mines? They don't want people like me there either. Leave this planet, Kael said. Build a small ship. Reach other systems on your own terms. Find your sister. Decide what to do together. Rian laughed once, short and harsh. The sound surprised him. Build a ship, he said. From this. He jerked his chin at the broken hulks around them. With what tools? With what engines? They took all the good stuff long ago. Not all, Kael said. They stripped what they could see, what their scanners recognized. They did not know our designs. They did not know where to look. I do. Rian did not answer. The idea felt too big. It pressed at the edges of his mind like the weight of the core had pressed at his arms. He crested a low rise and stopped. The ridge path lay ahead, a darker line of stone and packed sand. Beyond it, the land dropped in long, rolling dunes toward the faint smudge of the camp. Smoke from cook fires rose in thin threads. Off to the left, a glint caught his eye. He narrowed his gaze. A small shape moved between two half-buried holes, low and quick. A sled like his, but with two figures hauling it. Their silhouettes were sharp against the sand. One of them turned, and light flashed off something metal. Maybe goggles, maybe a rifle barrel. Rian dropped into a crouch by instinct, though there was nothing to hide behind but the sled. The harness lines went slack. His heart sped up. Other scavengers, Kael said quietly. Distance, approximately 300 meters. They have not seen you. Yet. Rian watched them. The other crew turned their sled toward the usual path, the one that cut closer to his route. If they see this load, he murmured. They may ignore you, Kael said, or they may not. You know the probabilities better than I. Rian did. People watched each other's hauls. A big, oddly shaped bundle attracted questions. Questions led to hands on things that weren't theirs. He looked up. The sky was still clear. Then a faint hum reached him. A different pitch from the cutter, from the wind. Higher. Mechanical. He tipped his head back. A dark speck moved against the pale sky, coming in low from the east. Its shape resolved as it drew nearer. A flattened oval with 4 thin arms extended, each tipped with a rotor that blurred in motion. Under its belly, cameras glinted. Drone, Rian said. Yes, Kael said. His voice went even flatter. Corporate survey. Pattern matches home field asset monitoring. Likely scanning for illegal camps, large metal concentrations, energy signatures. Whores. Rian's throat went dry. He had seen drones before, distant, tracking the main caravan routes, watching the way stations. They rarely came this deep into the wreck field, not unless someone had made trouble. What does it see? He asked. High-resolution optical, Kael said. Thermal, probably basic mass detection. They will log wreck positions, compare to old maps, check for new structures, new machines. Like you, Rian said, staring at the wrapped core on his sled. Like any active power source, Kael said. I am not broadcasting. The core is shielded, but the physical shape may draw attention if they review the footage. Rian's mind ran through options. Run, hide, freeze. None felt good. The other scavenger crew had seen the drone now. One of them pointed up. They dragged their sled under the overhang of a broken hull and crouched there, small under the metal's shadow. Rian could not reach cover in time. The nearest big hull was too far. The ridge gave him nothing but a low lip of stone. Lie down beside the sled, Kael said. Pull the cables over the bundle. Make it look like part of the scrap. Stay still. Rian moved before he finished hearing it. He yanked more cable over the wrapped core, hands fast and clumsy, then dropped to the sand on the side away from the drone's approach. The sled's edge hid most of his body. He pressed his cheek into the grit. It was still warm. The hum grew louder. Wind from the rotors brushed his back a moment later, carrying a faint smell of ozone and hot plastic. He kept his eyes on a single grain of sand in front of his nose. It was tan, with a darker streak through the middle. His heartbeat thudded in his ears. Breathe, Kael said softly. Slow. Rian forced air in and out of his lungs at an even pace. The hum shifted as the drone passed overhead, then paused. The sound deepened as it hovered. They are focusing, Kael murmured. Sweeping. Rian's fingers dug into the sand. He wanted to look up, to see if the cameras were pointed at him. He did not move. Seconds dragged. His shoulders began to ache from the tension. Thermal signature is low, Kael said, as if to himself. Your body heat blends with the sand. The core is ambient. Good. The hum shifted again, higher as the drone climbed a little and moved on. Rian heard it drift toward the other crew's hiding place, then farther, toward the main wreck cluster. He waited until the sound faded to almost nothing before he lifted his head. The sky was empty again. He pushed himself up slowly. His hands shook. Sand clung to his face. You did well, Kael said. Rian spat grit from his mouth. You keep saying that. It is accurate, Kael said. You stayed still. Many do not, under surveillance. They reveal themselves. Rian glanced toward where the other crew had been. They were already hauling their sled again, taking a different path now, away from the drone's direction. One of them looked his way for a moment. Rian met their eyes across the distance, then turned back to his own sled and started to pull. The harness dug in again. His muscles complained. The camp smoke was a little closer now. He set his jaw. Building a ship, he said after a while, more to himself than to Kael. That's a lot of work. Yes, Kael said. It will take time, and secrecy, and help. I don't have help, Rian said. You have me, Kael said. And you have people who trust you a little. Sela. Others. Trust is a kind of help, if you use it carefully. Rian thought of Sela's lined face. The way she watched him when he brought in good scrap. The way she had once said, quiet, that he had a better head for machines than most. She won't like this, he said. She will like you dying less, Kael said. We will talk to her, when the time is right. For now we secure the core. Then we plan. Rian said nothing. The rhythm of his steps and the drag of the sled filled his awareness. The wrap bundle behind him felt like a second presence. The sun slid lower. The air began to cool. Ahead, camp waited. A cluster of patched tents and scrap-built shelters crouched against the sand. Smoke and the faint sound of voices reached him on the breeze. He tightened his grip on the harness and kept walking. The drone's hum faded into the sky behind him. Rian kept his head down until the sound was gone. Then a little longer. The sled's runners hissed over the hardpack as he pulled, rope biting into his palms. The wrapped core sat buried under a layer of bent panels and broken conduit. It looked like any other salvage pile. He still felt exposed, like the thing glowed through cloth and scrap and would call every eye. Kael stayed quiet in his ear. The faint blue icon on his wrist display pulsed now and then, like breathing. The sun was low when the camp came into view. Canvas roofs and patched plastic sheets flapped in the evening wind. Old containers lay in rows, doors welded into place or hanging open as shelters. A few cook fires smoked, the smell of scorched grain and spice drifting on the air. Someone laughed. Someone else swore at a stubborn generator. He passed the outer watch post. Jono sat on an upturned crate with a cheap rifle across his knees, goggles pushed up into his hair. He squinted at Rian's sled. Good haul? Jono asked. Scrap and dust, Rian said. Same as always. Jono snorted. Scrap keeps us breathing. His gaze lingered on the sled for a moment. Rian forced his shoulders loose. Let his pace stay even. Any drones? Jono asked. One, Rian said. Survey type. Didn't care about me. Yet, Jono muttered, and turned back toward the desert. Rian moved on, weaving between shelters. The ground here was churned sand and old plastic, stamped flat by boots and sled runners. Kids chased each other around a stack of stripped engine housings. A woman in a torn pressure suit sat on a bucket, cleaning sand from a coil of copper with a rag. His shelter was near the back, close to the fence of welded rebar and ship ribs that marked the edge of camp. It was a low structure built from 2 cargo pods shoved together, with a patched tarp stretched over the seam. He ducked inside, pulling the sled after him until it was mostly hidden from view. The air inside was cooler, shaded. It smelled of dust, engine oil, and his own sweat. The walls were lined with shelves made from crate lids. Neat stacks of sorted parts sat on them, connectors, bolts, chips, wire, each in its own bin. His sleeping pallet was a thin mat in the corner. He stood still a moment, listening. Voices outside. Distant laughter. No one close. All right, he whispered. Door is clear, Kael said quietly. No heat signatures close enough to worry about. Rian crouched and began to shift the top layer of scrap from the sled. He moved the obvious valuable pieces first, setting them on the shelves in their places. A straight beam here, a good length of conduit there. He kept his motions steady, unhurried. When he reached the wrapped core, his hands slowed. The bundle was dense and cold through the cloth. He slid his arms under it and lifted. It dragged at his muscles. He grunted, teeth tight, and hugged it close to his chest. Left side, Kael said. Under the pallet. Rian shuffled to the corner. He set the bundle down, then pulled up the edge of his sleeping mat. Underneath, sheets of metal were laid over a shallow pit he had dug when he first claimed the shelter. He had been saving it for something important. Extra food, he had thought. Maybe a water cache. This was more important. He lifted the metal sheets aside, propped them against the wall, and lowered the core into the hollow. It fit snugly. The cloth brushed the dirt walls. He covered it with a layer of loose sand, then put the metal back on top, then the mat. He straightened slowly, back aching. For a moment he just stood and looked at the pallet. It looked the same as always. Thin mat. Old blanket rolled at the end. Nothing strange. Good, Kael said. Physical concealment is primary. Digital concealment is my job. You sure it's safe? Rian asked. As safe as anything here, Kael said. If someone comes to search specifically for me, this will not stop them. But they are not looking yet. Yet, Rian echoed. He wiped his hands on his overalls and stepped back outside, pulling the tarp flap down behind him. The sky had gone more orange. Shadows stretched long. The camp's main generator coughed, then caught. A low hum rolled through the ground. From the center of camp came the thin, rising music of the evening whistle. It wasn't a real whistle, just an old speaker tied to a pole, playing the same tune every night. It meant food if you had ration chips. It meant the broadcast if the signal held. Rian's stomach tightened. He had eaten a strip of dried meat at midday. That was gone in his memory now. He checked the little pouch at his belt. 2 chips, 1 for food, 1 he could trade or save. He headed toward the common tent. The tent was the biggest structure in camp. 3 cargo parachutes stitched together and stretched over poles, with tarps laced along the sides. Light leaked out in a warm glow. Voices overlapped in a low rumble. He ducked through a gap in the tarp. Heat and smell hit him first. Cook pots on open burners, steam and spice and burned grain. Sweat and oil and old cloth. Bodies pressed close, sitting on crates and mats leaning against poles. Near the front, on a crate that served as a stand, an old flat screen flickered. Its casing was cracked. A web of scratches crossed the surface. But the picture held. The corporate logo spun in the corner, pale and clean. A woman's smooth voice spoke over soft music. Bringing you verified truth from the core to your home field, she said. This is Verda Network. Rian slipped along the side, between a hanging tarp and a stack of crates. He found a space near the back, beside a pole. Sella stood there already, arms crossed, 1 foot up on a low box. Her shaved head gleamed in the light. The amber glow of her cybernetic eye was faint, but there. She glanced over as he came up. You look tired, she said. Dragged half a ship, he said. Half? Her mouth twitched. Show me later, if it's real. On the screen the logo faded. A presenter appeared. A man this time, middle-aged, with perfect hair and a calm, pleasant face. He wore a dark suit with a small crest pin at the collar. The background behind him showed a stylized view of a star field and a spinning station. Good evening, citizens and valued partners, he said. I'm Halen Dorr. Tonight, we begin with unfortunate unrest in the outer mining sector of Keth 4, where a small group of agitators attempted to disrupt lawful operations. Rian felt Kael's presence sharpen in his ear, like someone leaning forward. Watch his eyes, Kael said quietly, and the cuts. The image shifted. Now it showed a wide shot of a dusty mining yard. Big processing towers rose in the background. Workers in pressure suits moved between them. A crowd had gathered near a row of domes. The picture jumped, then zoomed on a group at the front. They waved pieces of pipe and scrap. One threw something. Smoke puffed at the base of a tower. Footage timestamp? Kael asked. Lower right. Rian squinted. Tiny numbers flickered there. Looks like late afternoon, he whispered. Compared to the shadows, Kael said. Angle is wrong. Rian frowned. The shadows were long. That meant near sundown. The timestamp said mid-morning. They altered it, Kael said. Or spliced different days. Go on. The presenter's voice continued over the footage. These images, captured by our brave security drones, show how quickly a few bad actors can turn a peaceful workplace into chaos. The agitators, many of them off-worlders with no loyalty to Keth 4, attacked vital infrastructure, including air processing units. The camera caught a man swinging a pipe at a metal housing. The shot stuttered. In the next frame, the housing was dented, hissing vapor. The man's mouth was open in a shout, but no sound came from him. The audio was just crowd noise in the presenter's voice. They cut the original sound, Kael said. I have the unedited stream in my archive. Rian shifted his weight. Around him, people watched with blank or tense faces. Someone clicked their tongue. Someone else muttered, idiots. Sella's arms stayed crossed. Her eye, the real one, narrowed. What really happened? Rian asked under his breath. They had been requesting filter replacements for 6 months, Kael said. CO2 levels in the dorm domes were above safety limits. Children had passed out. 2 elderly workers died last week. Management ignored the reports. The workers organized a walkout and peaceful sit-in at the admin dome. Rian watched the screen. The footage cut again. Now it showed a close shot of a worker's face behind a cracked visor. Sweat streaked the inside. His lips moved fast. The caption at the bottom read, Riot leader threatens violence. The sound there, in truth, Kael said, was him saying, "We are not leaving until you change the filters. Our children are choking." Rian swallowed. His throat felt dry. Lord Verdun responded with firmness and care, the presenter said. The image cut to a still photo of Verdun himself, standing at a podium in a gleaming hall. Pale skin, white hair, calm eyes, the crest pin at his collar, ordering security to restore order while ensuring that loyal workers remained protected. Back to Keth 4. Security drones now. Sleek, dark shapes hovering over the crowd. Gas canisters dropping. White clouds spreading. People stumbling, clutching at their throats. The camera lingered on a small group throwing rocks at a drone. Security teams acted with restraint, the presenter said, using non-lethal dispersal methods to prevent further damage and protect critical systems. They used a banned nerve agent in 2 domes, Kael said. His voice was flat. 17 dead, 43 with permanent lung damage. Rian's hand curled on his thigh. He forced it to relax. A man near the front of the tent spat on the ground. Shouldn't have hit the air towers, he said. Stupid. Gets you killed. Maybe they didn't, Rian said before he could stop himself. His voice came out low. Sella's head turned slightly. What? She asked. Rian kept his eyes on the screen. Could be the footage is cut, he said, spliced to make it look worse. Sella studied him. Her cybernetic eye whirred faintly as it adjusted focus. You been editing feeds in your spare time? She asked. Just looks weird, he said, shrugging. Shadows don't match the timestamp. She blinked once. You read timestamps? Sometimes, he said. Bored out there. You look at things. On the screen, the presenter smiled, small and sincere. Lord Verdun has also pledged additional air filter shipments and bonus rations for all verified loyal workers on Keth 4, once operations resume. His message to them tonight, stand firm. Do not let a handful of troublemakers steal your future. A woman near Rian nodded. See? He takes care of them. Just don't riot. Kael's voice was dry. The filters were already in storage on World, paid for by the workers' own debt deductions. Rian's jaw tightened. He glanced at Sella. Her gaze had gone back to the screen, but her mouth was a thin line. You believe him? Rian asked her quietly. She didn't answer at once. The broadcast shifted to a softer story about a new entertainment dome opening on some inner world. Bright lights, laughing crowds, people in clean clothes. Sella exhaled through her nose. Believe who? She said. Him, Rian said. He nodded toward the presenter. Verdun, any of it. Sella rolled one shoulder. I believe people in power like to stay there, she said. They like us quiet and busy. They like us scared of each other. That's a yes and no, Kael murmured. Rian said, so maybe the miners weren't just agitators. Maybe, Sella said. Her eyes slid to him again. Why do you care what happened on Keth 4? You planning to walk there? Just looks wrong, he said, calling people rioters when they're asking for air. Some heads nearby turned at the word. Air, someone repeated with a short laugh. They always say it's about air. Or water, another said. Or pay, same thing. They break things, then cry when security smacks them. Rian felt a hot prickle on his neck. He wanted to say, maybe they tried asking first. Maybe nobody listened. Instead, he kept his mouth shut. Pick your ground, Kael said softly. You will not change their minds in one evening. The presenter moved on to a segment about a new line of home drones, bringing efficiency to every family. The crowd's attention loosened. Conversations rose. Some people drifted toward the food corner. Sella stayed where she was. You hear something? She asked Rian. About Keth 4? He hesitated. Just old stuff I read, he said. Stories, they don't always match the feeds. She grunted. Stories get you in trouble. Truth gets you in trouble, Kael said. Stories keep you alive. Sella pushed off the crate. Come by my rig tomorrow, she said. If that half ship of yours has anything useful, I'll trade you a filter. Your tent smells like you're sleeping in a turbine. Rian huffed once. Might be the turbine keeping it cool, he said. She gave him a thin smile and moved off toward the food. He leaned back against the pole and watched the screen. The presenter's voice smoothed over everything. Problems were always small, always handled. Lord Verdun was always firm, always fair. Why do they watch this? Rian asked under his breath. Because it is one of the few moving pictures they see, Kael said. Because it tells them the world is ordered, that someone is in charge, that the danger is far away and caused by people not like them. Rian watched a clip of a smiling family in a clean dome, thanking Verdun Corp for a new water recycler. The father's hands were too smooth. The dome walls were too white. People here aren't stupid, Rian said. No, Kael said. They are tired. There is a difference. Rian thought of the miners on Keth 4, of air filters locked in a warehouse while people choked, of drones dropping gas. That could be us, he said. Yes, but Kael said. Someday it will be, unless we move. Rian's gaze drifted from the screen toward the dark shape of his shelter at the camp's edge. Under his thin mat, in the cool dirt, the core sat like a buried heart. Move where? He asked. To the sky, Kael said. You know this. Rian's throat tightened. Building a ship out of scrap, he said. You know how that sounds? Yes, Kael said. It sounds impossible, until you start counting. The presenter's voice rose, wrapping up the broadcast. Remember, stability is prosperity. Trust in the networks that bind us. Good night from Verdun Network. The logo spun again. The screen flickered, then went dark. A low murmur ran through the tent. People shifted, stood, stretched. Some argued about the mining story. Most talked about food. Rian stayed where he was a moment longer, listening to the empty buzz of the dead screen. You saw the cuts, Kael said. You felt the gap between what you saw and what you were told. That feeling is important. It just makes me angry, Rian said. Good, Kael said. Anger is energy. We will need it, but not blind. Rian pushed off the pole and slipped out of the tent. The air outside felt cooler on his face. The sky was a deepening blue, first stars pricking through. The desert stretched beyond the fence, flat and endless, broken only by the dark humps of distant wrecks. Voices and clatter faded behind him as he walked back to his shelter. His steps slowed as he neared it. He paused outside, hand on the tarp. You really think we can build something that flies? He asked. Yes, Kael said. I have schematics, models in your hands. Between those we can make a hull that will hold air and a drive that will push it. The rest is time and risk. Rian let the tarp fall open and stepped inside. The dim light from a small battery lamp cast soft shadows on the shelves. His mat lay in the corner, flat and ordinary. Risk, Rian repeated. Like getting spaced if they catch us. Like dying slowly here when the filters fail and no one sends new ones, Kael said. Like Keth 4. Rian sat on the mat. The ground under him was firm. He pressed his palm down, feeling the faint coolness of the dirt, the hidden weight beneath. He thought of the presenter's smooth voice, of Sella's narrowed eyes, of the way people had nodded when Verdun's name came up, like that was the end of the story. He lay back and stared at the low ceiling. Tomorrow, he said, we start counting. Agreed, Kael said. Sleep now. You will need clear eyes. Rian listened to the camp sounds outside. Laughter, an argument over a missing wrench, the distant cough of the generator. Under it all, the desert wind. He closed his eyes. The image of the miners' cracked visors floated there. Then it shifted, became the clean lines of a starship hull he had never seen whole. Somewhere in that blur he slept. The wind picked up after dark, like it always did. It pushed thin sand against the camp walls and made the tarps flap and snap. The common tent still glowed behind Rian, a dim square of yellow in the dark. He could hear the muffled voice of the newsfeed presenter, smooth and calm, talking about order and stability. He walked the path toward the edge of camp, where the haulers sat like low, patient animals. Their hulls were silhouettes against the dusty stars. The ground there was harder, packed by treads and boots. It crunched under his soles. You are nervous, Kael said quietly in his ear. Quiet, Rian muttered. His jaw felt tight. Just talk if I ask. He had hidden the core deep in his shelter earlier, under a pile of old cable and broken filters. He had checked it 3 times since then, lifting the scrap, seeing the wrapped, dull shape, and putting it back. His hands had only stopped shaking once he left the tent, and the screen and the lies about rioters. He cut between 2 parked crawlers. Their frames creaked in the wind. Ahead, Sella's hauler sat half on a rise, nose pointed toward the open desert like it was always ready to leave. The side ramp was down. A strip of light spilled onto the sand. The smell reached him first. Hot metal, stale air, a hint of cooked grain. He heard low voices, then a laugh that sounded like it was rubbed on stone. He stepped up the ramp. Inside, the hauler's cargo bay was mostly empty. Straps hung loose from the walls. A few crates were stacked near the front. A portable lamp glared from a hook, throwing hard shadows. Sella stood near an open crate with one of her crew, a narrow man with a faded scarf over his head. They were checking a manifest slate. Sella's cybernetic eye flickered when she saw Rian. It caught the light and bounced it back at him in a flat amber disk. You're late if you're selling, she said. We load at dawn. I know. Rian shifted the small sack on his shoulder. It clinked faintly. Got some couplers? Thought you might want first look. The man with the scarf snorted. Kids always got something. Sella jerked her chin at the crate. Put it there. We'll see if it's trash or almost trash. He stepped closer, keeping his movement steady. He set the sack down and loosened the tie. The couplers inside were clean, their contacts bright where he had scrubbed them with sand and spit. He'd picked them from a half-buried junction box the day before the drone, before the core. Sella reached in and took one, turned it in her calloused fingers. Her organic eye narrowed. The lens eye stayed the same. Not bad, she said. You ripped these out yourself? Box was already open, Rian said. Looked like nobody else had noticed it. She dropped the coupler back. I'll give you 3 water chips for the lot. 5, Rian said, automatic. 4, she replied, just as automatic. He hesitated a beat, then nodded. Fine. She tapped the slate. The man with the scarf grumbled and went deeper into the hauler, boots ringing on the metal floor. Sella glanced past Rian, toward the camp lights. You look like you swallowed a sandfly, she said. Something wrong with the feed? They show your face on there. Rian felt his throat go dry. He forced a small shrug. Just tired of the same story, he said. She snorted. Same story keeps people calm. Calm people don't stab each other over a cracked battery. The man came back with a chipped plastic strip, blue marks along its edge. He slapped it into Rian's palm without looking at him. Then he moved past and down the ramp, muttering. Rian slid the strip into a pocket in his cut-off overalls. He should have left then. That was the normal thing. Trade done, go. Instead, he stood there. Sella watched him. The wind outside howled once, then dropped to a low hiss. The hauler creaked. You got more to sell? She asked. Or more to say? Rian took a breath. About the feed, he said. That mining world. You been there? Her jaw twitched. Why? Just asking. People don't just ask that, she said. Not around here. He met her gaze, then looked away, like he was just curious, not pushing. He could feel Kael waiting, silent. You've got a mark, Kael said softly. She has traveled. She has seen other systems. She noticed the cuts in the footage when you did. Rian ignored him. I heard one of your crew say you'd hauled ore from there, Rian said. Last season. Sella sighed. She leaned back against a crate and crossed her arms. Yeah, she said. We ran a contract there. Dockside shuttles, shuttles, scrap runs. Why? What was it like? Rian asked. For real, not the way they showed it. Her brows went up. You believe what they showed? He thought of the feed, the shaky shot of a man throwing a rock, the loop of the same 4 people pushing against a fence, the presenter's smooth voice saying violent agitators and outside provocateurs. No, Rian said. That's why I'm asking. Sella studied him for a moment. The metal floor hummed faintly under their feet as the hauler's systems cycled. Tired, she said at last. That's what it was like. Dock workers with eyes like dead bulbs. Security everywhere. Helmets, rifles, drones. People lining up for ration bars that taste like dust. You see a few fights when lines get cut. That's normal. You pack that many people together with not enough food, they'll push. She scratched at the seam where metal met skin around her lens. But mobs? She went on. Whole blocks burning like they showed? No, not when I was there. You get talk, grumbling, little things. A loader that accidentally breaks a supervisor's transport. A shift that all comes down with the same cough on the same day. They make it look bigger on the feed. Makes the bosses look strong when they crush it. Rian watched her mouth as she spoke. The way it tightened when she said bosses. The way her hands stayed still, like she was holding them in. That matches the independent footage, Kael said quietly. The broadcast tonight used archival riot clips from another system. Same burning vehicle, mirrored image. Rian felt a small, sharp satisfaction. Not at the lie itself, at the proof that Kael's words lined up with someone else's eyes. So you think they're lying? Rian said. Sella's gaze snapped back to him. Careful, she said. I mean, he added quickly, about how bad it is, or who's to blame. She rubbed her thumb along a groove in the crate's edge. They show what they want people to see, she said. What keeps the routes open? What keeps contracts signed? You know that. You're not a baby. He nodded. He did know it, in a vague way. But Kael had filled in the gaps. Names of corporations that swallowed whole planets. Charts of trade flows. Cut clips of speeches before and after editing. They cut out the parts that make the bosses look bad, Rian said. Like when security shoots first, or when people ask for simple things and get nothing. The words came out flat. He didn't dress them up. He spoke like he was describing a rusted joint. Sella's good eye narrowed. The lens stayed blank. Where'd you hear that? She asked. Rian's heart thumped once, hard. Nowhere, he said. Just watching. You can see the jumps. 1 second there's a crowd standing still. Next second they're all running. But the angle's the same. Means they cut something out in the middle. He lifted a hand, mimed a straight line with a break in it. He hoped his face didn't show how much he cared about her answer. Sella looked at him for a long moment. The hauler's air felt thick. You're not wrong, she said finally. Her voice was lower. But you say it too plain. What's wrong with plain? He asked. Plain gets you noticed, she said. And notice gets you spaced. He thought of the old stories, half-whispered at fires. A man taken by a patrol because he'd called a supervisor a thief. A woman who'd asked why the water deliveries kept shrinking, how they just didn't come back. You're not making this up, Kael said. Their local enforcement records show. Stop, Rian thought at him. Let me talk. He shifted his weight, boot squeaking on metal. You been spaced? He asked Sella. She gave a short, humorless laugh. I'm still breathing, aren't I? You know what I mean. Her jaw worked. She looked past him, out toward the dark, where the dunes rolled under the stars. I've seen enough, she said. Saw a man get marched up a ramp in cuffs because he asked why his hazard pay was late. Next cycle, the feed said he was part of a smuggling ring. Maybe he was. Maybe they just needed a smuggler that day. She shook her head. You keep your head down, she went on. You learn what you can from the cracks in their stories, but you don't go around saying they're lying where ears can hear. Her gaze flicked to the open ramp, then to the ceiling, where a small black dome sat in a corner. It was dusty, probably dead, but still. Rian followed her look. A prickle ran along his neck. You got recorders in here? He asked. Not ones that work, she said, but habits keep you alive. You talk like that, you talk quiet, or you don't talk at all. He thought of the common tent, the way people had stared at the screen like it was a fire in the cold, the way a few had cheered when the presenter praised Lord Verdun's firm but fair action, the way others had just gone blank. You're testing, Kael said. You want to know if she can be trusted with more. Rian didn't answer him. People here believe it, Rian said aloud. The feed, the way they tell it, they think the miners are just crazy. Ungrateful. People here are tired, Sella said. Same as there. Tired people will believe anything that lets them feel better than someone else. At least we're not rioting like those idiots. Makes the dust taste less bitter. She pushed off the crate and stepped closer to him. She smelled like metal and old sweat and the cheap soap traders brought in. Why do you care so much? She asked. You planning to start a riot out by the wrecks? He almost smiled. The idea of the scattered scavengers here organizing anything bigger than a brawl over a battery was absurd. No, he said, just trying to see straight. She studied his face. Her lens clicked softly as it adjusted focus. You see too straight, they'll call it crooked, she said. They like people who see what they're told to see. I don't like being told, he said. That I know, she said dryly. You argue over every half chip. He shrugged. It's my water. And this, she asked? Is this your fight? The question hung there. He felt Kael lean into the silence. You could tell her, Kael said. Not everything, but that you have access to other records. That you know the official stories are edited? Rian pressed his tongue against his teeth. His birthmark itched under his sleeve, a faint tingle. It will get her killed too, he thought back, if she talks. You are not responsible for all choices others make, Kael said, but you are responsible for choosing allies well. He looked at Sella, the lines at the corners of her mouth, the scar along her neck, the way she had said bosses like a curse. He decided how far to go. I heard some old recordings, he said, before they cut them, from other places. Shows security firing first. Shows people just standing there with signs. No rocks, no fires. Then the feed now says they were terrorists. Her eyes sharpened. Old recordings where? He shook his head. Doesn't matter. Point is, if they lie about that, what else do they lie about? Sella's fingers curled once, then flattened. You don't say that word either, she said. What word? Lie, she said. You say mistaken. You say incomplete. You say must have been an error in transmission. You keep it soft. You give them a way to pretend they're still right. You call them liars. You make it a fight. They win fights. They've got more guns. He thought about that. About soft words wrapped around hard truths. About Kael's precise, sharp language and Sella's worn, careful one. You're not telling him to shut up, Kael noted. You're telling him how to survive while speaking. Rian felt a small warmth at that. Not comfort, just recognition. So you know, he said to Sella. You see it too. Seeing it and saying it are different things, she replied. I've got a crew. I've got contracts. I can't afford to have security sniffing around my hauler because some desert kid wants to talk revolution. I didn't say revolution, he said. You didn't have to, she said. It's in your eyes. He dropped his gaze. The metal floor had a patch where someone had welded a plate over a crack. The weld was rough, but it held. I'm not stupid, he said. I didn't say you were, she said. Stupid kids don't bring me good couplers. She paused. Listen, she said, you want to stay alive out here, you learn two things. How machines really work, and how stories really work. One will kill you quick if you get it wrong. The other will kill you slow, or fast if you open your mouth at the wrong time. He nodded. So I keep my mouth shut. Mostly, she said. You find people you trust, you talk in the gaps. Between shifts. Out past the lights. You keep it small. You don't stand up in the common tent and start pointing at the screen. He thought of the way his chest had tightened when the presenter had said, Lord Verdon's mercy. He had wanted to shout then, to throw something at the flickering face. I wasn't going to, he said. Good, she said, because I don't haul bodies. The wind outside gusted again, rattling the ramp. Sand hissed against the hull. Sella stepped back, giving him space. You got your chips, she said. You got my advice for free. That's more than you usually get. Go get some sleep. We're rolling at first light. Try not to get yourself spaced before I can buy more of your trash. He almost smiled again. I'll try. He turned toward the ramp. At the edge of the light, he stopped and looked back. You ever think about leaving? He asked. Not just runs. Really leaving off this rock. Her face went still. For a moment, something unguarded showed there. A flicker of some old hope, or anger, or both. Every day, she said. Then she shrugged, as if that meant nothing. But wanting a ship and having one are different things. Go on. He stepped down the ramp into the dark. The air outside felt colder. The camp lights bobbed in the distance. You see, Kael said softly. She knows the stories are shaped. She wants off-world. She understands risk. She could be an ally. Rian shoved his hands in his pockets and started walking back toward his shelter. She also just told me to shut up, he thought. She told you to be careful, Kael replied. That is not the same. The sand whispered under his boots. The tarps flapped. Somewhere a generator coughed. Rian touched the water chip strip in his pocket. Then he touched his left forearm, where the hidden core's weight had dragged at him all afternoon, as if his body still remembered it. I'll think about it, he said under his breath. He wasn't sure if he meant Sella or the ship Kael kept talking about. Maybe both. He walked on, back toward the low shape of his shelter and the secret buried under scrap, and the quiet, dangerous thought that he did not have to stay here forever. Lyra stepped out of the lift into the analyst tier and the air changed. Down below, on the public floors, the tower smelled faintly of perfume and polished stone. Up here, it smelled of coolant and tired people. The lights were softer. Rows of workstations curved in long arcs around the core shaft. Screens throwing pale color over faces bent forward, in the same half-hunched posture. The hum of the tower's data spine was louder here too. A low, steady vibration under her feet, like a distant engine. She walked along the outer aisle, heels silent on the dense carpeting. Heads turned as she passed. Most of the analysts were in plain gray jackets, collar tags showing division and clearance. A few had loosened their collars. None of them spoke above a murmur. She kept her pace even. Not fast, not slow. She let her eyes move without turning her head, taking in what was on the nearest screens. Traffic patterns, risk heat maps, a scrolling list of flagged phrases from public chatter. Little colored dots pulsed where the algorithms wanted a human to look. This floor handled anomalies that were too odd to trust to full automation, but not yet important enough for the command tier. It was where patterns started to become stories. It was where, if you watched long enough, you could see the Empire thinking about itself. She liked coming here at night. The tower's external glass showed only black now, with a few distant lights from other spires. No sun, no ad banners, just their own reflections in the work. A young clerk at the nearest station straightened as she approached. He had the pale look of someone who lived on recycled air and caffeine. His collar tag read, Jonas Tier 3. His gaze flicked to the slim slate at her hip, then to her face. Director Lyra, he said, a little too loud. She stopped beside his desk. Status? Routine throughput, Director. He swallowed. Several low-level unrest flags from the outer belts, all under existing models. One customs irregularity on the Charn route, already passed to security. Nothing above orange. His hands hovered over his console, ready to bring up anything she asked. On his main screen, a cascade of alerts scrolled down the left side. Most were green or yellow. A few flashed orange. Each line was a little block of text and numbers. System name. Type of anomaly. Source. Current handler. She watched the flow for a moment. Her eyes moved faster than his. He shifted, uneasy, as if he should be doing more. Show me the unrest flags, she said. He tapped. A window expanded. Noisy miners on one rock. A ration protest. On another, A rumor about a missing shipment that had already been traced to a misrouted container. All small, all familiar. The models would absorb them. Predictive? She asked. Within expected variance, he said. No cross-system correlation above baseline. She nodded. The numbers matched what she had seen upstairs. The Empire was restless, but not yet dangerous. Not tonight. Something else flickered at the edge of her vision. On the original list, a new line appeared, briefly highlighted as it slotted into place. Legacy Explorer Code signature detected. Frontier Relay HF-37. The text was small. The highlight faded almost at once. Jonas moved his cursor to a different item, already ignoring it. Lyra's gaze stayed on that one line. Scroll back, she said. He hesitated, then did as told. The list jumped up a few entries. There it was again, near the middle now as more alerts piled on top. Legacy Explorer Code signature detected. Frontier Relay HF-37. Source, Outer Frontier Homefield Sector. Confidence 0.82. Autoroute. Archive Project. Then a string of characters that resolved in her memory before she finished reading them. Her hand tightened on the edge of his desk. Why is that on this tier? She asked. Jonas blinked. He looked at the line, then back at her. It's set to autoroute, Director. The system just shows it in the feed as it passes through. Tier 1 archival. Sealed project. My clearance doesn't... I know your clearance, she said, more sharply than she meant to. She eased her tone. Who usually monitors these when they appear? No one, Director. I mean, the auto-handlers do. We don't touch sealed project items. Protocol. Of course, that was the point of sealed projects. They lived in the gaps between human eyes. Only the code and a few old men at the very top ever saw the full shape. Her gaze went back to the screen. Legacy Explorer Code signature? The words felt old in her mouth, though she did not say them aloud. They carried a faint taste. Dust, engine oil, a memory of stars seen without a window between. She pushed that aside. It was nothing, a trick of association. She had been told that once, years ago, when the dreams had been stronger. Open the details, she said. Jonas, this froze. Director, that's... I'm aware of the protocol, she said. My clearance exceeds it. Open the detail. He swallowed again. His fingers moved. The line expanded into a small window. Most of it was hashed out, replaced by black bars and a pale lock icon. What remained was bare. Detection node. Access outernet relay HF-37. Signal type handshake ping. Signature match. Explorer Collective Class 3 Navigation AI. Legacy hash KEL7C19. Below that, in faint gray, Route 2, Archive Project Kestrel, Supervisor, Lord Verdun, Override Lock. Her own reflection looked back at her from the black portions of the window. Calm face, dark hair in its knot. No reaction. Inside something shifted. A small, cold movement, like a door opening in a place she had forgotten existed. Kestrel. She had not thought that word in years, not consciously. It lived in a sealed corner of her mind the same way the project lived in the tower systems. She had been told, very clearly, to leave both alone. Director, Jonas said. His voice was careful now. He knew they were somewhere delicate. She did not answer him at once. She studied the few lines that were visible. Frontier Relay HF-37. Homefield Sector. She mapped it in her head. A dry little system on the far edge, if she remembered right. No major routes, no heavy assets, a place to forget. And yet some old piece of code out there had spoken in a voice the system recognized. Explorer Collective. Class 3 Navigation AI. The hash KEL7C19 sat on the screen like a small, precise weight. Her slate buzzed at her hip. She did not move her eyes from the screen. Display, she said. The slate projected a thin, private overlay into the air before her. Jonas could not see it. Only she could. Lord Verdun's crest glowed at the top. Below it, a single line. Immediate attendance requested. Level 42. Conference 3. No further detail. There never was when he called like that. The buzz stopped. The overlay waited for her acknowledgement. The tower's background hum seemed louder. Director, Jonas said. Said again quieter this time. She closed the overlay with a small flick of her finger. The crest vanished. The sealed project window still sat open on Jonas's screen. Her training laid out the options in her mind. Clean and simple. 1. Close the window. Let the auto route proceed. Go upstairs at once. 2. Mark the item for manual review under her ID, which would trigger a whole different set of eyes. 3. Attempt to dig past the lock, which would set off alarms she would not hear until it was too late. She knew what she was supposed to do. The sealed projects were not her concern. They were old ghosts, dangerous only if disturbed. She had work in the present. Lord Verdon did not like to be kept waiting. Has the auto route completed? She asked. Jonas checked a small status icon. Not yet, Director. It's in queue. Estimated 20 seconds. 20 seconds. The tower could shift an ocean of data in less time than that. But sealed items took a different path. Slower. More guarded. Do you have any other items from HF-37 in the last cycle? She asked. He shook his head. No, Director. That relay barely pings. It's a low traffic node. Of course. That was why the signal stood out enough to be flagged at all. Her slate buzzed again. A shorter, sharper vibration this time. Not a request. A reminder. She thought of Verdon's face. The way his thin mouth tightened when someone wasted his time. The way his pale eyes went flat when he decided a person had overstepped. She also thought of a different image, half-formed. A metal corridor lit by strips of cold light. A hand. Maybe her own, maybe someone else's. Running along a wall marked with a small bird emblem. Kestrel. She did not know if that was a real memory or something installed with her training. It did not matter. It was there. Director, Jonas said, almost a whisper now. If you need to, I can log that you instructed me to. No, she said. You will log nothing beyond standard auto route. Do you understand? His eyes widened. Yes, Director. She watched the tiny status icon. It flickered from queued to routing. A thin bar filled itself. 10 seconds, 15. She could, if she wanted, tap her slate, open a back door she was not supposed to know she had, and attach a silent mirror to the route. She had used that trick once, years ago, on a different project. It had taken her months to erase the traces. She had promised herself she would not do it again without a very good reason. Was this a good reason? A random ping from a forgotten relay? An old code signature that might be a glitch? The sealed word Kestrel on a screen? Her jaw clenched. She forced it to relax. No, that was not enough. Not yet. Curiosity was a weakness. That was one of the first lessons they had drilled into her. Curiosity made you predictable. It made you easy to move. The bar reached the end. The status flipped to complete. The window collapsed into a single line again. Legacy Explorer code signature detected. Frontier Relay HF-37. A small check mark appeared beside it. Routed. Done, Jonas said, exhaling as if he had been holding his breath. Lyra straightened. She stepped back from his desk. You did not see the details of that item, she said. He nodded quickly. No, Director. If anyone asks, it passed through as per protocol. Yes, Director. She believed he would say that. Fear was a good sealant. She turned away. As she walked towards the lift, she let her face settle back into its usual calm. Inside, the small, cold movement remained. A question with no place to go. The lift doors opened at once. The system had already cleared her path. She stepped in. The doors closed on the low murmur of the analyst tier and the endless scrolling alerts. Level 42, she said. The lift rose, the floor humming under her feet. The numbers ticked up. 38, 39. The air changed again, growing cooler, drier. The hum of the data spine faded into a more distant thrum. She thought briefly of the frontier relay. HF-37. A little piece of metal hanging in some empty part of space, listening and talking to almost no one. Something out there had woken up enough to speak an old name. KEL-7C19. Class 3 Navigation AI. She pushed the thought away. She would not let it color her face. Verdon saw more than most people thought. He had a way of sniffing out stray ideas. The door slid open onto level 42. The corridor here was quiet, lined with dark panels that hid more sensors than she could name. A pair of guards in black stood at the end by Conference 3. They straightened as she approached. One of them touched a finger to his earpiece, listening to some silent confirmation, then stepped aside. The door recognized her and opened without a sound. Lord Verdon stood by the far wall, hands clasped behind his back, looking at a wide display that showed the axis of the Empire as a series of glowing nodes and lines. Trade routes, FTL gates, resource flows. It looked almost beautiful if you forgot what it represented. He turned his head as she entered. His pale eyes took her in, quick and exact. Lyra, he said. His voice was soft as always. You took your time. She crossed the room, stopping the proper distance from him. I was on the analyst here, my lord, she said. Reviewing anomalies. Anything of interest? He asked. She met his gaze. Her heartbeat was steady. Nothing that will trouble you tonight, she said. He watched her for a moment longer, as if weighing that answer. Then he nodded, slow, satisfied. Good, he said. He gestured to the display. We have other matters. She stepped closer to the map of the Empire, its light reflecting in her dark eyes. Somewhere, far beyond the outermost node, a small, forgotten relay, spun in the dark, holding a secret she had just let pass into a deeper shadow. She focused on the lines before her. On the work! The rest could wait.